Okay, in comedy, the one thing people pretend to stand against, the one thing people pretend is just you're not allowed to do it, is stealing jokes. And I'm going to tell you guys the reason that never changes before I start this episode. The reason that never changes is because when you call somebody out for actually taking parts of your bit, they will make it seem like you're just being petty. Even if the person has a reputation for stealing jokes, they'll still make excuses for that person and act like that person is somehow excusable. Like, because the bit that we're going to talk about is a bit I do where I mention Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson has been dead for 10 years. And I also mention Elvis Presley.
Music used to be fun. Now you're not allowed to listen to it. Get in trouble because the artist, you know? So I don't know when that rule started. We're supposed to care about the artist's personal lives. Elvis married a fucking 15-year-old. Nobody gave a fuck.
And I'm going to play several different versions of it. Trixx, who is the person that is taking parts of this bit or decided last night to take parts of this bit. And I try to talk to him person to person because to me, that's the better way to handle things, is just to actually talk to the... And I wouldn't even be recording a podcast about it if he had just said, like, look, I'm sorry, but it must have just seeped into my mind and I won't do it again. Like, because you're going to find out on the podcast, because I already recorded it. I'm just recording this after to add. You're going to hear on the podcast, like, we have other things that have happened where we don't get along anymore. We used to be friends. I'm one of the people that really urged him to move to Las Vegas. I was bugging him to move to Las Vegas because I thought he'd be a good addition here. So when it comes to this particular situation, it's like he's seen me working on the bit, and so I'm going to play that as well, like him actually. This was August 20th, 2019 is when this particular recording was done, you know, or it wasn't just me, because I record pretty much all of my sets, at least the audio, which is something I've talked about before. I don't listen to enough, and because I had to go through all these last night, there's still a few that I haven't gone through that I, you know, can probably go through. But I've done the joke over 100 times just because of the amount of time that I've gone up, and since, like, shutdown, I haven't really done it that much. You know, I've done it a couple of times, once at the LA Comedy Club. I don't know if Trixx was there that night or not. It's not like I'm constantly paying attention to who's around, because really, just as comics, that's a code we have. And when it came to Trixx and stealing jokes in the past, which he's known for in Canada, he's known for a couple of things in Canada, but that's one of the things he's known for in Canada. When it comes to that, I just always assume that that's in his past and he's done with that, or I assumed he was done with that. So understand, to me, this is not something I take lightly. This is not something that I would just throw out there because we're not getting along. Technically, I thought that one day he would come to his senses and we would just have a chat about what happened, because when it came to our personal situation, it really was about me just putting down a boundary. I didn't like what he was doing, and I felt like he was trying to get in my head in a weird way. And so I went ahead and called that out, and I felt like, as far as friends go, you should just accept that and be done with it. Let it go. But this is what it is, and like I said, I'm going to play the parts of the bit that he took, and then a couple different variations of it. I'm going to play one of the many times we're in the same room.
One more time for Trixx, Las Vegas. Over here. I cannot stress enough. If you're in town, go see him at Brad Garrett's. It's a full 45 minutes, I believe, which you will not regret that, man. Seeing that guy for any amount of time is fucking awesome. One more time for Trixx, guys. So cool of you to come here. For making us come. Make some noise also for our entire staff at Hooters who makes this thing possible. It's a team effort. And George on lights and sound. We got Castle and Danny. It's a great show. Our last comic coming to the stage. Oh man, you're for a treat. A nationally touring headliner who just headlined at the Dirty at 12:30. He'll be headlining the LA Comedy Club at the Strat very soon. Make some noise for our final comic, Ty Rivera. Let him hear it.
Give it up for Trixx, everybody. And then they bring up old shit too, like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson has been dead for 10 years. I'm not going to stop listening to Michael Jackson music. I don't care what anybody says, I'm not going to stop listening to Michael Jackson music.
That Michael Jackson's just coming along, man.
Yeah, they're fucking going. When I did the bit, I'm going to play him telling me that the bit is really coming along, the Michael Jackson bit.
That Michael Jackson's just coming along, man.
Yeah, they're fucking going. And for anybody that wonders why I would have a Michael Jackson bit at this point, the bit has less to do with Michael Jackson and more to do with the fact that people won't allow us to enjoy music anymore even. Like, that's something people have taken away from us, is now we're supposed to care what the artists do in their personal lives, which I don't know when that started. That's what I say in the bit. You'll end up hearing it. Trixx changed the intro to the joke, remixing, as Carlos Mencia would put it. He changed it to now we're supposed to worry about morality, but we're selective with the morality, you know, because the way that I say the joke, which you'll hear, is
now we're not allowed to enjoy music because we were supposed to care what the artists do with their personal lives, which I don't know when that rule started.
Then there's the part about digging up Michael Jackson, which last night he did.
Then they run out of people to be mad at now, and they'll dig up fucking dead bodies. Michael Jackson, how many times are we going to talk about Michael Jackson? I'm not going to stop listening to Michael Jackson music. I love Michael Jackson.
The Elvis line, he took 100% verbatim.
Elvis married a 15-year-old, nobody gave a fuck.
That's something he said last night. And, like, people would be like, why do you care about parts of a joke, you know? Then in the Michael Jackson bit, when I do it, I say, I blame the parents. And he's like, I blame the moms. I blame the moms. Which, if you were there last night, you heard him say. You know, so changing it from parents to moms, changing it from artists' personal lives to morality, and I don't know, you know, why we're selective about the morality. Like, it's just slightly remixing a bit that, like I said, that he's complimented me on as I was working on it.
That Michael Jackson's just coming along, man.
Yeah, they're fucking going. So he's seen me working on this bit since 2019. The in and out that we've seen each other, and we did used to see each other a lot, and if he lies about that, everybody will know that that's a complete 100% lie, because anybody knows when we were getting along, we used to see each other all the time. You know, people would see us around each other all the time because we actually did hang out to a degree, not in personal life, you know, but like at comedy spots, we would always be hanging out, talking and stuff like that. We were legit friends. So I'm gonna play this and you guys can feel how you want about it, but like I said, this is why things don't change in stand-up. This is why people like Carlos Mencia build entire careers off stealing bits. And with Trixx, he travels the country, he travels the world, so who knows how many people's bits he's taken parts of. And like I said, these are parts of the joke that he's taken. And for me, it's a lot like if you're customizing a car, because we can admit, like a Michael Jackson bit at this point, or even like mentioning Elvis Presley, which I don't know a lot of people that are mentioning Elvis Presley, but whatever, because people have tried to already say that it might have been parallel thinking or whatever. Okay, everybody's talking about Elvis Presley in 2021. That makes perfect sense. But anyway, people are already saying that. So let's say, you know, you're customizing a car, and it's a Chevy, let's say, a Camaro even, to be more specific. And then your neighbor, who's also your friend, says, you know what, I'm going to customize my car too. And instead of doing their own customizations, they decide they like the customizations you're doing better, so they just start coming over and stealing pieces off of what you've customized. So, you know, if you ever wonder why stand-up comedy is in the state it is, it's because comedians like Trixx don't get held accountable by the people that will surely be at his birthday party tonight to let him know that he's a wonderful guy, a great comic, and doing super original stuff here on the Las Vegas comedy scene. Hopefully everybody's wearing flip-flops. Hopefully it's a flip-flop party. It's a beach theme to give Trixx the birthday present we all know he really wants.
Everything bothers him.
He's unbothered.
He calls it unbothered, but that's what's cute because everything bothers him. He's bothered. I'm a botherina.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Unbothered by Ty Rivera. It's a surprise episode of Unbothered by Ty Rivera. I didn't even know I was going to be recording a solo episode, but like we do all the solo episodes, we are on the couch ready to get unbothered, and there are reasons to have to get unbothered tonight. Here's the deal. I ended up going to LA Comedy Club last night and the night before, or tonight and last night, I should say, because this is at the end of Friday, basically early Saturday morning. And I just got home from the LA Comedy Club. It was quite a night. Let's start off with, first off, last night, well, you know, as always, Bijou is currently enjoying a Whimzees Alligator. Whimzees Alligators, the never-to-be sponsor of Unbothered by Ty Rivera, but we still give them a shout-out, and we still put our Amazon affiliates links to Whimzees Alligators down below in the description box. Check out Whimzees Alligators. They will not, should not, no promises, but they haven't killed my dog in 7.5 years. So check out Whimzees Alligators. Anyway, here's what I'm trying to get at. It turned out to be quite a night. Jill Kimmel, who I don't really get along with, is part of the story. You know, like for me, there doesn't even have to be a problem with these people. It's they approach me or they're in violation. And because I'm going to talk about Trixx, who used to be my friend. Jill Kimmel also used to be my friend. Technically, I was the first person to bring her to feature here at LA Comedy Club. She said that she had like gotten a guest set here before I brought her. Like that's what she said tonight in the argument. But she obviously hadn't been back to feature, which means she probably wasn't getting her texts and calls returned. And so I requested that she be able to come on my weekend. And that's when I was living in Phoenix. And the thing with that situation, I'm just jumping in right here because you guys will catch on quick. I've got to get unbothered. I'm going to try to do it in under an hour or right at an hour. So I just got to go at this. So what happened was, I knew that she was performing this week at the LA Comedy Club, so I was kind of trying to stay away. My friend Brant Tobler is headlining. He's the one that brought her this time. He's the one that brought her this time. And so I knew that I probably didn't want to hang out too much, but I can go and be in a room with somebody that I completely don't care for. Because for me, there was no active hating Jill. If you were to ask me about her, I would have just said, I don't care about that bitch. And that's really the way I feel about it. And that's the most plain way I can put it. I'm not going to try to make myself sound good or like I'm an angel in any of this, but I will tell you guys exactly where I'm at and how I feel everything in the words that I talk in so you guys can understand and get me. You know, like, just fuck somebody else trying to explain this. This is me, not a representative of me. And I'm going to say some shit. I usually do have a code with my friends where if you tell me something in confidence and we're friends, then I'm fine with that, and I'll take that to the grave. You can tell me where you put the body. But as soon as you try to accuse me of the murder or just being a murderer, then I'll expose a lot of shit. Because really, I don't care. Like, you know, none of this is really coming from a place of hate, to tell you the truth. It really is coming from a place of frustration in both of these situations. Here's what happened and the way it went down. Last night, I went to LA Comedy Club. Yesterday, while I was working out at the gym, Butch Bradley, who's a good friend of mine, just released his comedy special. I talked about him on 2 episodes ago. I always talk about him. He's great. I love Butch Bradley. So he hits me up. Carla is his girlfriend. Carla that makes Carla's homemade salsa. You know, that I'm always plugging on social media because I absolutely love that salsa, and you guys should check it out. They just got their own Instagram page, Carla's Homemade Salsa. It's got its own page. Check it out. Search it. It's easy enough to find. But she got a new label too with what's it called? Like it's a pepper with her face in it, and it's so great. Anyway, so Butch had hit me up, and I was supposed to go pick up some salsa. He just hit me up out of nowhere and was like, so Carla made some salsa. She has some for you. And I fucking love that salsa. Anyway, so originally the way that he started the conversation, if I remember correctly, and I'm not trying to change the way the text went, I just don't remember it verbatim, but like this is generally the way the conversation went. He hit me up and was like, are you going to be at LA Comedy Club tonight? And I was like, no, but I could. And so he was like, yeah, okay, because Carla made some salsa and I got some for you. And so I was like, okay, cool. So that was the plan. And I was going to meet Butch, and I knew that Jill was on the 8 o'clock show. I don't really care about her. Brant, I really like a lot. I wanted to see Brant, but I was willing to forego that just to not cause any kind of uncomfortable tension or anything like that. And so I figured if I got there by 10 o'clock, Jill would likely be gone, and I would be able, it's Thursday night, and so I figured Jill would probably be gone, and then I could just go do what I had to do with Butch. Well, I get there, and I ended up seeing Trixx, and I don't get along with Trixx. We were friends. Like, I met Trixx back in 2013 when I won the World Series of Comedy. I won the World Series of Comedy in 2013. Trixx came in second, and then a very, very funny comic by the name of Matt McClowry came in third. So that's where I originally met Trixx. The way it goes down with Trixx is another time I worked with Trixx. After that, LA Comedy Club just paired us up, and I had liked him from when I did World Series of Comedy with him. We got along really well. He was cool. I considered him, a new friend, whatever. And so they suggested or told me they were going to have Trixx, and I was like, yeah, cool. So we did that weekend together. On that weekend, one thing that I've never told anybody is a really big comic hit me up that weekend, gave me a call, and was like, make sure you watch your jokes around Trixx. And if Trixx ends up hearing this or anybody asks him about it, he'll know the big comic I'm talking about. It's a huge fucking comic. And this comic doesn't usually call me just to chat, you know what I mean? And so when I saw him, I answered the phone and was like, he's silly and I love him, but it was just like, hey. Then he was like, hey, just watch your jokes. He was like, make sure Trixx doesn't steal your jokes. And then I was like, oh, does he do that? And then he was like, yeah, he's got a reputation for that. So I was like, still kind of like whatever, because I love my friends or whatever, and this comic, I do consider him a friend, but I also know Trixx is my new friend, and I'm not trying to judge people off what other people's experiences have been with them. I always talk about that. That's just a part of what I am. So I'm like, yeah, I hear you, but as long as he doesn't do any of my stuff, we're okay. Well, guess what? Tonight was that night. But anyway, we're going to get to that, because I believe when something like this happens and you're going to talk about a comic in that way, because really I've chosen not to do an Unbothered about Trixx so far. Like, we got into it a couple weeks back, and it was over some bullshit. And well, if you ask me, not really bullshit. It was him being bullshit. And I guess I could tell that story right now the way it went down. What happened was, back, if you remember the Bobby and Crystal situation, when I got into it with Bobby and Crystal, when I woke up that day, the first person on my phone was Trixx. Like, literally the first person, because I don't like people calling me. But Trixx is a friend, and so I will answer the phone when Trixx calls, or I would answer the phone when Trixx called. And so when he called me, and I knew I just had the Bobby and Crystal situation, and a friend of mine had already told me that Crystal had posted my text messages with her where I called her a fat bitch on Facebook. So I already had the heads up, and then the friends also sent me screenshots of the entire conversation or the thread or whatever, which I didn't need all that. I got a taste of it from the beginning, but it was an interesting read and interesting to see who had opinions about me that I didn't know about. But anyway, whatever it is, like, this is just the way the story goes. So Trixx is the first person to call me, and I knew that's what he had to be calling about, but I don't care. If you want to call and get the chisme from me, which is gossip in Spanish, I'll give up the chisme. I don't care. It happened. You know what I mean? Like, those text messages were actually my text messages, and I wasn't at all ashamed of it or didn't feel any particular way about it. And, I stood by my words at that time, at that moment, and everything I said and the reason I expressed myself the way I did. And so I had no reason not to answer my phone. And it's the first thing he says is, so do you think it was a good look? Literally what I said back was, do you think there was anybody on the scene that thought I wouldn't call somebody a fat bitch? And then I started laughing, and I could tell that it was bothering him that I really didn't care. And I know that part of that is because Trixx is plagued by a scandal. And I never cared about this either, but I'm going to talk about it because it's all part of, I'm going to set up the whole way this all goes down for you, because I hate when people try to spin me into a narrative. Then that's what Unbothered is for. When people can maybe travel a little more than I can, because I don't want to just be out for the fuck of it. Trixx is out all the time having drinks with everybody, trying to buy friends and, try to be that guy. I'm always drinking. Anybody want to do shots? He's that guy, and I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to start drinking again just to appeal to other comics or seem like the fun guy. I'm not the fun guy. I do stand up, and that's why I'm mentioning this or calling this out, is because when it comes to my jokes, that's where we don't fuck around. Like all the other little bullshit, like trying to play head games, gaslight a little bit, cool with it. I won't stand for it, but at the same time, it's not something that really needs to be addressed publicly, or I would have done my Unbothered back then. So what happened is Trixx has this scandal where he was hitting guys up back in Canada and having them send feet pictures to him, and also recording their feet, telling them it was some kind of scam. You can check it out on Vice. I'm not the journalist like that, and I really didn't really pay attention to it because, like I said, I've always felt like as long as somebody doesn't do something to me, it's really not my business. And between consenting adults, if you're somehow, anyhow, tricking guys into sending you pictures of their feet, and these guys aren't dumb enough to know that they're being whores and tell you send me some money first, then I don't understand that world altogether. Because if somebody asked me for feet pics out of nowhere, and especially feet videos, which is what he was asking for, I would be like, okay, yeah, send me money. And some of these people, he promised things. Apparently there's a podcast where he admits that he was doing it and says it's a fetish, but then says he didn't do anything sexual with it, and he never did anything with the videos. That he just deleted them right away. Maybe I'll find the podcast and play a bit of it here just so that, but what the person that was telling me the story was, they were on the podcast, he apologized and he said that he had a foot fetish, but then he said there was nothing sexual about it. And if you look up the word fetish, it's a form of sexual desire in which gratification is linked to an abnormal degree to a particular object, item of clothing, part of the body, etc. That's the number one definition. And then there's a second definition for it that is an inanimate object worshipped for its supposed magical powers or because it is considered to be inhabited by a spirit. So either it was something sexual, or these were magical feet, or he comes from upbringing that tells him that feet are magical and to be worshipped, or he doesn't know what the word fetish means. One of the three is what it would seem like. And I'm going to try to find a receipt for you on this. I don't know how much research I'm going to want to do. I might be able to find the podcast clip. If I don't, we're just going to have to take Hearsay's word for it. Or Trixx can come on Unbothered, because to tell you the truth, I wouldn't care if he got unbothered by me. I mean, personally, I would respect it more, because the thing was, I tried to go to him man to man tonight with this. So please understand that too before we go any further, is that I tried to actually go to him person to person when I saw him tonight. And other nights I've chosen to leave him alone, and I would have continued to leave him alone, because really what our situation was he called me about that crystal situation, and I could tell that it was bothering him, that I just didn't care, because he's incredibly bothered by the fact that follows him around. You know, the foot situation does follow him everywhere he goes. People talk about it. There was a point where they stormed his IG live and were just putting up feet pics, these other comics. And then, you know, like he's just really been through the ringer. And I told him one time, because he hit me up to tell me he was bummed out about that. And I told him on that message, I was like, yeah, don't worry about it and just think of it as a good thing. Because every time people bring it up, it hardens you more to that. It's like a callus, you know, because I've been dealing with people trying to shit on me on the internet for a long time. So when I have a friend that's going through that, and that's the advice that I gave him at the time, that's what, and he was even puzzled when I told him it was a good thing. But I was literally, that's what I meant, was like, you know, it calluses you to that. And then, you know, because if he's already apologized for it, because I had heard he had apologized for it on that podcast. I didn't hear the podcast, like I said, but, you know, I already knew that part. So it's like, for me, if it was between adults and you already apologized, then what's really the big deal about it? You know, like I felt like if I were to give him advice on handling it, though, if I were his Olivia Pope, I've never seen that show in my life, but I know that that's scandal. But if I were his Olivia Pope, I would tell him that he should have paid every one of those whores off. You know, like if he promised them an Xbox, got them an Xbox. If he promised them PlayStation, got them a PlayStation. And yeah, maybe he would have had to go into some credit card debt over it, or maybe not drink as much as he drinks, or maybe not gamble like he does, or whatever it is he might be doing. I don't know him like that, but I do know what he's told me. And I do know that I see him always with the drink in his hand. So I'm pretty sure he has the money. He lives in a nice building too. I'm pretty sure he has the money or has the means to pay everybody what he said he would give them. Or if he said he was going to get them an audition, really, because that was the other thing. That's the thing I read in Vice, was that he promised some people, like, or one guy, because Trixx was working with Much Music, which is Canada's version of MTV. And he told some guy that, you know, he would get him an audition. And then there was one guy that I heard, a very reliable source told me that this guy all the way quit comedy and had to go to therapy. And that I do feel bad for. And that one sobered me up because I always think of people like they should be better whores. I said it on Tim Dillon's show. It's just what, you know, like that's the way I come at it. Like I told you guys, if anybody asked me for pictures of my feet, I'd be like, yeah, but you got to get paid first. That's what you ladies need to understand. And when I say ladies, I mean men and women. If you're whoring, you're a lady to me right now. And I'm gonna help you out a little bit. What you do is you get paid first. So once the Xbox is on your door, then it's your part to be a responsible, reliable whore and send the feet pics. And for feet pics, honestly, you know, like I would say $50. And I've heard, I don't know what an Xbox costs, but I heard around $500. So that's 10 feet pics, you know, and you can get cute with it however you want to do. But you get your part first. Like that's the thing. Money on the table, dinero primero. However you want to word it, that's how we do it. You know, so I'm going to send you guys out there with a little bit of knowledge. If you're going to be running fast like that and living like a whore, then act like one. Make your money first. So, yeah, so that's what I would have told him, but I never even broached that with him because really it's not my business. I know it's a sore spot for him. I did consider him a friend. And so I wouldn't ever bring that up to him. But here he was on the phone with me questioning me about my situation with Bobby and Crystal, which to me is much more mundane. And really, I didn't care about that. Crystal got me banned from Facebook for 30 days. That's something that happened. And I had to figure out a way around it. But at that time, I really had to make money because I needed to make up for a gig that I had lost. I told you guys about that, and that's when I sold CDs. And I didn't really have time to give that too much energy. I made a podcast about it, but that's because it's content, and that podcast was really well listened to and created revenue. So I'm not going to, sleep on my own talents or what it is that the universe presents me. Just like right now, I'm not going to, but am I really mad at Trixx? No. Do I really consider Trixx a threat in the comedy way, even if he does steal part of a bit? No. Is he going to do my bit better than me? No. But the thing is, I want to set up exactly why it is that I even feel like I should really get unbothered about this. And that's because it really does get on my nerves when I'm willing to completely overlook your flaws and what you have going on and stuff like that, and then you in any way not only try to gaslight me, and I don't use that term, like, I'm not a victim, understand, I'm not trying to paint myself like, I'm a victim of Trixx. No, I'm a person that blocked everything Trixx was trying to do, and then he ended up using part of my joke, and then I know the way he'll try to spin it is like I'm just being petty. And really, if I was being petty, I would have done the Unbothered about this back when he got on my nerves on that particular day. So I was running into Trixx a lot. I've been running into Trixx a lot, like we even hang out. We're cool. We were friends, like we would hang out. We would see each other at spots and fucking, kick it like comics do. So understand, like, when I say the amount that I saw him, I'm not saying it like in any kind of way other than just matter of factly, and if I wanted to bring up anything with him, I definitely would have had a chance. But there was one time where I even thought, when I did the Be Better Whores, I thought of that situation, when I was made the video that was expanding on that a bit more. It's the John Weaver video, but if you don't watch, you don't watch. But whatever, I was going to bring that story up and not mention Trixx's name because we were friends at the time, and then I was like, yeah, that would seem like a shady thing to do, and it's because we were friends, and so I didn't actually do that. And then I thought about asking him if I could do it, and then I was like, he really doesn't like that subject. Like in my head, I was like, if you're a friend, you just don't bring it up, like he's not whatever. And so I like, if I was being catty or petty, then I would have done it some way like that, or I would have done it when we first got into it. I don't remember the date. I think it was around my birthday that we got into it. Anyway, but yeah. So what happened was, I end up telling him the story about Bobby and Crystal, and then he goes into this thing about how he doesn't really trust white people anyway, and I'm like, welcome to the club, girl. I think, like, don't we all just know that as people of color? But that's besides the point. No offense to my white botherinos, you're not like them. You're the good ones. But there is a part of people of color that are always kind of like, you never know with white people, they might get iffy on you. They might get iffy. But very cool white people in the world. Some of my best friends are white. Anyway, so he says this, and like I say, and the reason I joke about this is because, like, him saying that, I don't mention it like it's a particularly damning thing about him, or like I'm exposing him in some way or whatever. This is just the way the conversation went. So we end up having a pretty pleasant conversation, but there was a part of me that when I noticed that he was getting annoyed because I really didn't care about it, because he kept trying to make it seem like there might be some kind of consequence. It's just not a good look. It's just, and he just kept going on, and I was like, yeah, Trixx, I do not care even a little bit. I don't care. Like, that's the way I was talking to him, and I was being cool about it. I was laughing in between, and if you know me, being like me. And so I was, being silly. And so when he told me that part, really, I remember that part because it was kind of diverting from me. I mean, like, what you're talking about with your shit with white people, one, I don't think Bobby and Crystal being stupid had anything to do with the fact that they're white. It's just they were being stupid. But, like, I get what he's saying, and, I'm willing to hear him out. But at the same time, it's like, you're talking about old news. I'm talking about hot off the presses. Either you called me to gossip about me and listen to me, or I don't really need to be on this phone because I don't care about this busted ass story you have about why you don't trust white people. But it's part of the conversation. And he did say, literally, in so many words, and this isn't me misquoting him, and if he says anything different, he is definitely lying, because I wouldn't put words in a person's mouth like that. I'm not fucking crazy. I'm a little bit of an asshole sometimes, but I'm not fucking crazy. But, and I'm not like that guy, you know what I mean? But he did say that he doesn't really understand why Crystal's involved in the comedy like that anyway, and then he talked about that a little bit and mentioned, like, that Bobby should let her know that it's like his work, and so she really shouldn't be arguing at work. And he was very clear, though. I want to be very clear about this. He was very clear about how he was cool with Bobby and Crystal, and unless they did anything to him, then he was just going to stay cool with Bobby and Crystal. And you guys know my policy on that. I don't care who my friends hang out with. That's their business. My battles are not their battles. And that goes for every one of my friends. Chris Dorian is my best friend, and he will tell you 100% that's just the way I do it. and that's the way we all do it. Like, same, so anyway, so I didn't care that he's gonna be cool with them or whatever. Him saying that was cool. It's whatever. There's no mark of loyalty or disloyalty to me on that. But what I didn't like was, at one point I saw on his Instagram story that he was at dinner with them. He was at their place for dinner. And I did mention something about their dirty ass house, which was me being catty. I 100% admit that. But he already said that he doesn't really like white people like that anyway. So I'm perfectly within bounds right now. We're people of color. We've both taken our wigs off. That's what it is. So I tell him that, something about that dirty ass house and those dry ass sides, and it looked like they had made good mac and cheese like that. But I've been fooled like that before by them, because sometimes that mac and cheese looks good and then it is flavorless. But anyway, he said like something like, "You're silly." And then I mentioned him. I was like, "Did you, talk to them about their situation with me?" And the reason I asked him this, I'll tell you the reason I asked him about this, was because he seemed really bothered when I didn't consider it a big deal at all. But then he's at the other party's place, and to me, a real friend, and you'll see on the Unbothered I have coming up, where you'll see me talk to my friends and how honest I am with the way that I deal with my friends. To me, a real friend would tell them, like, yeah, you and Ty, whatever, about the argument part and stuff like that. But Crystal really doesn't have any business on the comedy boards like that, because she does get in the way for Bobby, and it's just unnecessary in a scene that's already has a little bit of drama. Not too much drama on the Vegas scene, to be 100% honest. I like it here because there's not a lot of drama. And believe me, I'm not trying to bring that here. I'm trying to nip that in the bud, so everybody knows what's really going on the behind the scenes, and then doesn't think it's something other than what it is. Because really, all I want in this scene is to make money and for people to get ahead and do the things, all of us, because there's enough money and enough opportunity for all of us, including Trixx, as soon as he gets his shit together. As soon as he really, and I know he's working a lot and stuff like that, and I don't deny that. But at the same time, it really is a check yourself before you wreck yourself situation, because you've already got a reputation for being a hack. And then instead of, because I gave him the opportunity, I talked to him. I also talked to one of the owners of the club, just because I didn't want to blindside anybody, because I do have ethics when it comes to this kind of thing. I would rather talk to you person to person, and then it never has to be public like that, since really, I don't think Trixx is going to stop working or quit being a comedian, and I don't think that this is going to end him, and I'm not calling for anybody to cancel him. I'm just letting you guys know the way things are going down, and that maybe, yeah, you do need to watch your jokes around him, because everybody talks about Carlos Mencia all the time and how, he would take people's jokes, and in some cases he would just outright steal the joke, and in some cases he would just remix it and make it his own, which isn't a fair thing to do, especially when comics have established jokes that they're doing. It's just not the way this game works. I know people at home think they're jokes, nobody cares. Yeah, in the comedy world, people do care. That's a big thing as far as ethics and comedy go. But there's also the personal side mixed into it, which is what Trixx is really. It's a situation where it's the opposite. Like, he claims that I'm being emotional, and I'm not being emotional at all. He claims I'm being petty, and I'm not being petty at all. He's being both of those things, and this is why it plays out the way it does. When it came to the Bobby and Crystal situation, I did mention to him that, that I thought that since he thought it was so pressing and had to get a hold of me right away that day, now that he had an opportunity to talk to them, because he was obviously at dinner at their place, it might be time for him to dispense a little bit of that good advice to them as well. The same way you let me know that you thought it wasn't a good look that I said the things I said over text, which I took in at that time, even though I threw him right out. But I did, just let him have his, okay, well, and he gave me some advice, told me that it was smart that I wasn't on social media, and the best thing I can do is not respond to it. And, I felt like, well, I'm not on Facebook anyway, so really, how would I respond to it other than, when I did my Unbothered? But that ended that, I just laid it all out, just like I'm doing now. So I thought that was a bit off, and I did let him know that, and we had a bit of a back and forth because of it. And I know he probably thought I was being petty, but really for me it was like a principle thing. Like, you should give them some of that good advice too, and let Crystal know that I was in essence right in that part, in that, you know, she really didn't have a place starting extra drama on the scene, which was my main thing with Crystal. As far as Bobby went, being a moral compass, but if Trixx didn't want to mention anything about that, whatever. You know, it wasn't something he really mentioned, you know, when we were on the phone. And so, you know, I could see how that wouldn't be his thing. He doesn't have to speak for me. So that's where I was at on that. So then we get to a point where I'm seeing Trixx regularly at the LA Comedy Club, and I was doing a bunch of sets there. I don't remember if I was like, maybe it was just when I don't know. It was right after the shutdown happened, and, you know, I was performing at LA Comedy Club quite a bit. And so was Trixx, and I would see him there, and we were friends, you know. But when I would get off stage, he'd always have some sort of commentary about what I had done. That one just seemed angry, you know. Did I fucking kill it? Because that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what my tone or demeanor are when I'm on stage. I'm not trying to be the same kind of comic you are. You know, in my head, this is what I thought. But I would just, like, you know, let it kind of roll off my back. But when it's happening all the time, and I'm noticing that you, like, you know, then I had the Shang thing, and he was like, I usually don't agree with you, but on this one I agree with you. And he kept telling me that. And it's like, finally I got like, is this guy thinking that I'm looking for his approval, or that I'm somehow looking to him for some sort of validation? Because that's not at all what's going on. So I hit him up to see if he was going to be, because, you know, it started to just bother me. And I hate when people try to get in your head like that. You know what I mean? Like, you live your life the way you live it. I'll live my life the way I live it. And if we can be cool together, we can be cool together. If you really don't like seeing me and the way that I move through the world, then don't be around me, or don't look at me. Don't make me your focus like that. You know, how did I become your project? Was really the way I felt about it. But, you know, and so I started to get annoyed with it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna nip this in the bud. So I put up a Facebook post, and it was about him, and it was about how he's kind of trying to ingratiate himself to the scene, and that he's, you know, because, like, he's been doing, like, that's the other thing that I should mention, is, like, I notice what he's trying to do on this scene, and it's like, yeah, I get it. You're trying to, like, you know, make yourself seem like you have some kind of elder statesman status, and that's fine or whatever, but I don't need you for that, you know? So I see what you're trying to do. Don't try to make me one of your minions, because it's not what's happening. So I hit him up, and then I was like, hey, and this apparently happened on February 1st. And then he was like, yo, and I put, you going to be at LA Comedy Club tonight? And he put, nope. And then I put, check out my latest Facebook post when you get a minute. And then he was like, I saw it. Who pissed you off now? And I put, I don't know if it's the drinking or what, but lately you've gotten a little free with opinions on me. I like you a lot as a friend, so I'm hitting you up person to person with it. And you'll notice that I really want to drive it home for him that I don't need his opinions. And the reason that I drive it home the way that I do, what you have to understand about me when it comes to that, is when somebody has done that a couple of times with me, and it really did become him, like, telling me, because, you know, I wasn't going to go into the every time that, you know, that I was seeing him at the club, he had some kind of opinion about my set, which, just comic to comic, he's not good enough to have opinions about my set. Trixx is not somebody I ever would look to in even a stand-up way. And, like, the truth about Trixx, and I would say this even when we were friends, like, yes, he works a lot, and because he makes audiences laugh, he should work a lot. That's not something I have a problem with. That's not something I have any feelings against, any resentment, anything. Work as much as you can work. But at the same time, you have to recognize that you're not exactly an original comic. And while, yeah, I knew that, you know, your material wasn't the most original, I didn't know you to be an actual joke thief. So I never really cared about that, you know, the fact that people would say even he was hacky, because a lot of people talk about the fact that he's hacky, just like, you know, a lot of comics have talked about the foot thing. Like, it's just something everybody knows, you know, like, one, he's kind of hacky, and it's kind of like that hokey, like, ho, I'm here to have a good time, you know, and I'm not that. And well, some nights I'm that, you know, but I'm not always going to try to be that. I don't have an act that I do. I don't have a personality that I put on. What I'm feeling in that moment is usually what you're going to get. And it's one of the things that people like about me most. And it's one of the reasons sometimes I don't even know what the fuck I'm going to say. You know, like, yeah, I have my bits and stuff like that. But if you ever notice the riffing in between and the way that I talk, it's all very natural and it's all very fun. And Trixx just isn't that and isn't going to be that. So it was like him giving me advice is as useless as me giving him advice. And really, it's more that than even the situations he had on my personal life. It's like, don't try to fucking talk to me about comedy. You're not good enough to talk to anybody about comedy. Well, yeah, maybe some people, if they want to go that very middle of the road act way, yeah, then you're the guy to talk to. If they just want to work, then yeah, you're the guy to talk to 100%. And so I take that part back. Let me not let my words get ahead of me here. Because so like I was saying, I'm cool with him, like doing whatever he does, working, whatever. I don't have a problem with it. Just don't try to get in my head in any way. Like, you're not an influence that I want. You're just not. Like, the thing is, like, when it comes to him and even his quote unquote fetish, I'm not even judging you for that. But like being a creep about it, being weird about it. And then I did recently hear he had another scandal not too long ago, again telling a person that he was gonna shoot a sketch, but he needed them to like be barefoot and that kind of thing, and that somehow ended up getting out. And I probably shouldn't go too much into that, but yes, between me and you, Trixx, is that, or is that not something that just recently happened? So you don't learn your lesson on any level, whether it's because, like, when it comes to the joke thievery thing, somebody else had mentioned to me not too long ago that he does a version of one of the late Eric Myers' joke, which was a circus joke. But the bit of mine that he did part of was, there's a bit where I talk about how
now we're not allowed to enjoy music because we were supposed to care what the artists do with their personal lives, which I don't know when that rule started.
And I mention
Elvis married a 15-year-old, nobody gave a fuck.
Tonight, Trixx literally did that. And then he also mentions Michael Jackson, which is the next place I go in that joke. I was like, I mentioned Michael Jackson, and it's a really good, funny Michael Jackson bit, but I mentioned that Michael Jackson's dead. And I was like, so unless, Michael Jackson comes back from the dead, there's nothing to say about that. So then tonight, in his bit, he says Michael Jackson's dead, and unless they dig his ass up, then he doesn't have an opinion about that.
Then they run out of people to be mad at now, and they'll dig up fucking dead bodies. Michael Jackson, how many times are we going to talk about Michael Jackson?
And then I say I blame the parents, and he was like, I blame the moms. I mean, like, come on. How close can you get to my actual, like, you're hacking parts of my bit. You're Carlos Menciaing it. You are taking bits and remixing them is what you're doing, and you're not going to be better at it. But the thing is, just know that you're being the actual hack that I was warned that you were going to be. And it should seem like not that big of a deal, but yes, it is a big deal when we're both working the same fucking scene, and you've seen me do that joke because I used to do it at Hilarious 7 all the time. You complimented me on that joke before.
That Michael Jackson's just coming along, man.
Yeah, they're fucking going.
Because then I go into the R. Kelly thing, or I did the R. Kelly thing already at the beginning of the joke, and I mentioned Chuck Berry, and so it's like such a not ethical thing to do just as far as being comics goes. And so there's that. It's like, what are you doing right now, Trixx? Because really, and so, like, it's really not that big of the deal in the way that I could have just talked to him about it. He could have just been like, I'm sorry, maybe, because sometimes things get caught in your brain or whatever, and you just say something in the moment or whatever. And if he had said something like that, even that would have been fine. But when I walked up to him and told him, you literally did parts of my joke in your joke tonight, he was like, get away from me, Ty, get away from me, Ty, and like waving me off and acting like I was just being drama. And I'm not going to start a fight with you at the comedy club about it, and I'm not going to fucking try to make it like a big screaming match, because literally that you did part of my joke. And I'm, like I said, when you play proof, then it's like, so are you saying that you didn't do that joke that night, or you're saying you didn't do a variation on it? Because I walked up to Gooch right when you did it, and I walked up to Mikey. I walked up to a couple of people and just was like, this is what it is. This guy is literally hacking my bits right now. And Matt was like, I don't remember. But, Matt's not there that's one of the owners of the LA Comedy Club, which, like, I don't mind saying their names or saying that I talked to people, because the thing is, I talked to Ron Jossel about it. And I get that people will, in some cases, want to be neutral or whatever. And yeah, be neutral if you want to continue to be friends. Be friends with Trixx, but really comedically, that shouldn't be happening. And I think anybody that's involved with the comedy club or knows the comedy game or is part of the comedy game even more so should know that that's not something that's acceptable. So handle that however you want to, but just know, comics, that Trixx isn't necessarily being on the up and up. And every set, in my opinion, like for me personally, this is, you guys can handle yourselves how you want. But I will never give Trixx credit in my head even for doing a bit again, because I'll just be like, I wonder whose bit this is. Because Trixx travels all over the world, all over the country. You know, Trixx works a lot, so he could be lifting people's bits and remixing them from all over the country. So, and like I said, the Eric Myers bit, I don't know 100%. I knew Eric Myers, but I can't say I knew his Circus Circus bit. That's why I don't care if, like, you know, some of the people that I talk to don't remember me doing the thing about Michael Jackson. Like, you know, I'm not tripping off that even a little bit. It's what it is. But, you know, like Gooch, who I talked to about it, I do, you know, expect Gooch to be somewhat on the up and up about that, because Gooch has heard me do that bit, because me and Gooch have done Hilarious 7 a lot together, and I did that bit all the time at Hilarious 7. So I just want to be clear about what's happening here so everybody knows, because tonight might have looked a little erratic to the outside world, but to me, I was very happy with the way that I've been conducting myself the last couple of days. Because yesterday, and this is also part of what got on my nerves, yesterday when I showed up at LA Comedy Club, Trixx left the area that I was originally talking at, which, you know, I had stopped at the table that all the comics sit at, and then the owners of the club will sit at. One of the owners was there. I said hi to him, but I always greet them. You know, it was like, I pretend if I don't like you, you just don't exist. So it's not like it's even being catty to Trixx or anything like that. But I'm still going to walk up to who I walk up to and say hi to who I say hi to, and that's just the way it's going to be. You know, that's the way it's always been for me. There's other people I feel that way, but it's really not a lot. Like, people will make it seem like, you know, Ty's always getting into it with somebody. No, just people that fuck up, and usually that's open micers. Like, I expected better from Trixx, and I even, when somebody had mentioned him for a particular gig not too long ago on the comedy board, I thought in my head like he would be perfect for that gig. So I vouched for that. I seconded that on my comments to the lady. I was like, yeah, Trixx would also be good for that bit or that gig, you know, because I really don't. Like I said, the thing with Trixx, when I got annoyed with him, it really was just him needing to understand, I put down a boundary with you. I need you to understand why I'm putting this boundary down with you. And once I know that you understand that I'm not just being petty right now, and I'm not just being sensitive, I just don't know why you thought you were in this position. And I need you to fully understand that you are not, for our friendship to continue. Because what happens when you don't make sure people are clear about these things, and I know because I've made this mistake, is that they do it again. And so then you just get like, okay. And at that point, I will just get like, yeah, fuck you. And I will say something different than like trying to. The way I came to him was me just very much explaining to him where it was he was fucking up when it comes to trying to be my friend or establish any kind of real relationship with me. You know, I was one of the people that really pushed Trixx to move here. I told him he was bullshitting and he needed to just move here. I thought he was going to be a good addition, and maybe he still could be a good addition. Maybe, I know some people, you know, like that book the comedy clubs here, like think he's a good addition. And yeah, if you want to have him, then have him, but understand that if certain comics don't necessarily want to work with him or don't feel like he's trustworthy in that way or don't want to do their jokes around him, understand that that's not that comic being difficult. That's just what happens. You know, there were people that would say that they wouldn't perform when Carlos Mencia was in the room. So I don't know why Trixx wants to be that guy, but apparently that's something he really wants. Because when I tried to talk to him person to person, if he had just said, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I won't do your part of the bit anymore, especially since between me and him, he knows that bit.
That Michael Jackson was coming along, man.
Yeah, they're fucking going.
So if he were even just like, I was drunk and I accidentally said that, but you know, I get what you're saying. But to try to treat me like I'm just being petty when I try to actually deal with you person to person, dealing with you person to person is anything but petty. And you would have seen that that's all I would have had to say to you. When it came to Jill Kimmel, I had nothing to say to her. So, stay unbothered.